Hello Firewood fanatics, it's Mike with K&L Firewood, and today we're going to do a proper boiler clean out here. You saw the other day I came out and the temperature was down, but there was still quite a bit of hot coals in there. We stirred those up. I threw a few pieces of firewood in there. That was Friday. It is now Sunday morning, so it's been maybe 48 hours since I threw those few pieces in there. The temperature is down. It is 77 degrees now. It usually fluctuates between 175 and 165. And like I said earlier, I like for all those coals to be down. I'll show you the temperature and we'll take a first look inside the boiler and see what it looks like inside. Hopefully it's just a bunch of ash. I bet there will still be some hot coals after we stir it up, but we're just gonna have to get rid of them. You can see it at 77 degrees. There's still some hot coals in there. So here's what I'll do. I'll drag all that up because that's all good and burnt. I'll get rid of that. I'll try to push some of these hot coals off to the side. Take everything out, but some hot coals, and then that'll be a good fire starter for when we fill it back up. So I've got the Cub Cadet Yanmar out here, and I'm just gonna put the ash in the bucket and then get rid of it. I like to stir it up with that hoe or whatever tool you have. Just kind of break it up off the sides and on the bottom if it's kind of compacted down there. It shovels out a lot easier, and when I did that I found that there's a lot more hot coals in there, so it's going to be almost impossible to just get ash out of here, but it's going to be a lot more ash than what it was 2 days ago when I showed you. So less hot coals, more ash. I started October 14th and today is December 18th, so right at 2 months. We've had a couple snows in that time. Had some temperatures in the 20s. I don't think we've been in the teens yet. And we've had days that were in the 50s and maybe it got to 60 a day or two. I'll give you a little husband advice here. First thing Allison's mouth this morning was, "What do you have planned for today?" Which is code for I better not hear a chainsaw today. I dug a little deeper in what she was getting at, and she's got some other things she wants to do today, so as a family. So I'll probably yield to the wood yard today and hang out with the fam. Had this for 10 or 12 years, I don't remember. So it'll be 12 years in February. I think this is only my second shovel, so you get your life out of them for sure. You've watched some of the other guys with the more efficient furnaces. When they clean theirs out, they don't have much ash at all because it's got that reburn cycle in it. This one doesn't have that, so you do produce quite a bit more ash. But I think my firebox is bigger. I can accumulate ash longer than they can. You can really see what's hot in there. I do have still a good bed of coals that I can try to toss these off to the side and clean up over here. And I'll have a good bed of coals that just the fire started again. So is it worth it? Let's talk about that. Are these furnaces worth it? For us it is. Number one, I enjoy doing it. Gives me something to do. Keeps me out of the bar. The heat is nice and warm. I'm all electric here. I don't have any gas source at all. So I have a heat pump as our primary heating source. So if I wouldn't have this boiler, when it would kick into auxiliary heating, which would be someplace around below 30 degrees or below 0 degrees, I don't know what it is, somewhere down there, it would turn on like a 15,000 kilowatt auxiliary heating coil. I don't know, I'm sure those numbers are wrong and words are wrong, but suffice it to say it's expensive to run that auxiliary heat. So instead of kicking on to that, I just switch it over to the boiler when it gets to 30 degrees outside. I'll switch it over to the boiler. The heat pump never runs, the auxiliary heat never runs, it's just the boiler. This also heats our hot water. Just a couple days ago I got our energy bill and it was $176. $176 is fairly inexpensive because I've heated this house without this boiler and it can get pretty expensive. Remember the first year I was telling you we had this, I ran out of wood in the wintertime, I heated this house, and that was 10 years ago, so energy costs have gone up since then, but I know that was kind of an expensive little stint when I was running that auxiliary heat and not running this. So yes, it's worth it. There is an energy savings for sure. Just like selling firewood too, this thing will operate a lot better, give you a better bang for your buck if you put in dry firewood. It lights faster. It doesn't have to use all that energy to boil off all the water that's inside. It takes a lot of energy to get rid of water. So you get to capture all that energy and turn it into heat. Does it need to be fully seasoned? No, this thing will burn whatever you throw in it as long as you've got a fire going. But it's a lot more efficient if it is on the dry side. I've got a friend who's got one who will just throw in chunks as big as he can fit through that door. If he can pick it up, he'll throw it in there. Green, dry, whatever, tires, whatever he can throw in that door, he'll put in it. I don't know what kind of trouble he's had over the years, but he kind of razzes me a little bit about splitting all this firewood, but I don't know. It's dusty. I should probably be wearing a mask. These days, everybody's wearing a mask. I should be out here for sure wearing one. Good night. Just in being out here and stirring up these coals, it's gone up a degree, so there is still quite a bit of heat in here. So if you have one of these and you run into a neighbor or something, they always want to know, how does that work? And I bet over the years we've had this, I've probably told the story 100 times on how this thing works, and I bet I've told it to 80 different people, meaning the same people ask all the time, how does that work? I guess they just don't pay attention when I tell them the first 2 or 3 times. But in any event, it's got a 400-gallon or something, a bunch of water, jacket in here, and then you make a fire. It heats up the water. The hot water gets pumped into the house, runs through basically just like a radiator, and then when the house thermostat calls for heat and you've got it clicked on auxiliary mode, it just turns on the fan and blows across those hot coils, which blows through the ventilation ducts and heats your house. And then the hot water gets pumped back here. Now actually there's an extra step in mine. It goes to my hot water heater, and there's a transition there where it collects the heat from, the word escapes me. Anyway, it collects the heat from this water. The water never mixes, but it collects the heat from the hot water, and then goes to the furnace, runs through those coils, and then back. The cold water comes back here, but it's not that cold. There's also a auxiliary port on here, so I could put another line. My idea is to put a pole barn over here someday, and then run that over to the pole barn and just turn it on as needed. Same thing, you just have a hanging unit in there, and 200,000 BTU or whatever, it'd probably run you out of a pole barn. And then our garage isn't heated, so I'm thinking about hanging one of those hydronic heaters in there too, and just cutting the line and running it to that and then back into the house. It'd be a pretty easy process for whoever I hire, I'm sure, because I'm not doing it. When we built this house, I did a lot of the plumbing work and sprung a few leaks. And I'm not a plumber, so I'll just go ahead and hire a professional. Now, I'm pretty safe with a shovel or a hammer, but you get me into doing too many other things. I really just don't enjoy it, and I don't care to learn about it. So it pays to have friends that are good at those kind of jobs. For me, all right, what'd that take? 10 or 15 minutes moving the camera around and chit-chatting. Didn't take long. Those are the hot coals that I kind of left behind. I'll throw on some nice dry wood, and a few minutes from now it'll be burning. So I'll start off with some real dry stuff like this. We'll get this thing going and then put on some of these bigger chunks, and it'll be good to go. Now, Homestead Jay, if you guys watch him, he's got a unit just like this. And I think Firewood Midwest does too. But Jay will not be very happy with me, because he had a video the other day that said, do not let your boiler get down below its set temperature. And I get that, because you're gonna spend a bunch of energy right now getting this thing back up to speed. But I've had this thing for 10 years or whatever, 10, 12, however long we've had it, and this is the way I do it. I'm not saying the way he does it is incorrect. I'm just saying this is the way I do it, and I have pretty good luck with it. I like to get all that out of there. Now, this is seasoned firewood, but it is wet. It's been raining here the last couple days. It generally doesn't matter. It'll get going here in just a sec. And I talked about it too earlier. These are just 16-inch pieces. I like to get my fire going and keep it up here in the front, because I'll show you up in there. If you keep this fire here in the front, it keeps everything here. There's some baffles in here that kind of prevent that heat, or at least slow it down from getting all the way to the back. And then there's that back wall where this heat's gonna go all the way down the wall before it goes back up and underneath. So if you keep the fire up here, I think you retain a lot more of that energy for a little bit longer. Now that I'm down here on my knees, I probably could have done a better job cleaning that off, but there'll be a next time. It's already starting to smoke, if you can see it. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Hey, buddy. Hi, bub. Wanna come out and start the fire with Dad? Finding quite a bit of good pieces in that bundle over there. We're gonna turn those into dollars. I think I'll probably let that catch. I don't know, in 5 minutes it'll be burning, and then I'll come out here and put in some bigger chunks. All right, that didn't take too long. Okay, fire going. Now I'll throw some big pieces in it and walk away. These are some pieces that came from that locust pickup. I can't do anything with that, right? So into the boiler it goes. And I got some pieces like this. It's that Osage orange. Boy, it is heavy and dense. To burn. Well, that went all the way to the back of the furnace. Not what I wanted to do. This will burn like the dickens. Shut the door and let her eat. All right, so here's what's left. We've gone from 77 degrees to 167 degrees with what we put in there earlier. Filled back up, and we won't have to mess with it for at least 24 hours. All right, the boiler is smoking. It's going to be up to temperature here for too long. I'm going to call it a day before I get in trouble by my spouse. And we will see you guys next week. Hit that like button, subscribe, tell a friend, leave me a comment. I'll try and reply to you as soon as I can. Get to work, because this stuff doesn't split itself.